Welcome everyone. I'm Monika. I'm working as a risk manager in cybersecurity, risk and control enablement in CBA. First of all, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Adrian who gave me this opportunity to present and meet you all. It's like I'm very glad to be here. So the topic what we'll be discussing today is biometrics authentication in IAL. Well, when we talk about high security and assurance, and we talk about securing our personal and sensitive information, what actually do you think is the password, weak passwords? If you think long time back, it all started with weak passwords, and we started with complex ones. We started with PINs, single sign-ons, MFAs, and now what? And now what? How to actually secure that highly sensitive information is something that is really need to be thought upon. And that's where you talk about biometric authentication. Honestly, when I was in my last company, in a superannuation firm, I worked in financial services for the past 2 years. So there was nothing like that. For the past 15 years, I never had an opportunity to, when I log into my system, and then I just have to put my password and that's it, done. Slowly we started thinking about MFAs, and then one day I couldn't even log into my system. I was so confused what's happening. I was, it's like, this is my last company that happened with me, wherein I had to actually had a phone wherein I can actually face recognize myself. Wow, that's amazing. I have a beautiful 8-year-old daughter. What she does is she always wants to see her face in my mobile, and she says I want to do that, and it should be my face when you can unlock the phone. How sweet is it, isn't it? Well, let's talk about that. Biometric authentication refers to a cybersecurity process that verifies a user identity using their unique biological traits such as fingerprints, voice, and then we'll be talking about more regarding what are the two categories for the biometric authentication. Physiological. You talk about the physical characteristics of a person, voice, fingerprints, and then what else can you think of? So many of them right nowadays. It's like face recognition, and then the behavior biometrics, wherein if you remember those old days we used to have signatures, handwritings, keystrokes. This is all related to behavioral biometrics ones. So if you go to a server room, or I have been actually very lucky to go through this process with so many things going on. For example, we're lucky enough to have that biometrics wherein we can actually give our fingerprints and the phone just unlocks. The face recognitions, and that's what we talk about right now. What are the examples? The server rooms which we just talked about, access to mobile phones and laptops. We just discussed about those, how we actually able to unlock the phone, how we are able to unlock the laptops with the face recognitions, the e-passport wallets, which is so interesting. I went to the airport security recently. I had to go to Sydney for my trip for 3 days. Something weird happened with me, which I would like to share. Is I had a photograph in my passport for many years back, 6-7 years back, and then when I had to actually scan it in the airport security, it denied. Oh my God, I was like, now I can't do. So it's, if I talk about security in biometrics, that's also not that secure, to be honest. It's not that reliable. But then, the good thing is that out of at least 100 people, if they were scanning their passports, it's just one or two like me who maybe, they're having their recent photos and then the system is not able to scan. So which is great, right? Again, the same thing, biometrics. Threats and risks. I've been working in my company on the vulnerability management projects, where we all the time talk about, patching those non-patchable vulnerabilities. Like, it's taken so seriously nowadays. Now, encryption controls, having those system vulnerabilities are identified and reported controls. I was just thinking, like, I don't know what all the time they are asking me to talk about. Oh my God. But now I understand the importance. Like, we had so good lectures from Sue, and then we talked about YubiKey. It actually really makes me think, yeah, that's true. What if it gets hacked? Then what? I have a very interesting example with you to share off. Is about a leak occurred at Supira a few years back. That's a South Korean company. It was hired to provide biometric service to UK banks, gyms, medical supplies companies. Now what happened was actually their database got unprotected and unencrypted. It was actually unprotected and unencrypted. So because of which there were really serious problems. They could actually, it was very easy for the hackers to access to the buildings. It was very easy for the hackers to do whatever they like, they can have their own accounts, fingerprints, etc. But luckily nothing happened. But if I go back, they were actually having that conversations with the GDPR compliance officer, which I really want to talk about more regarding the GDPR regulations in the coming slides. Security measures. What are the security measures we really need to talk about, and which are actually discussed right now in the past few presentations. We were talking already about strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, keeping the softwares up to date, of course. I would like to actually talk more about the GDPR stuff. It's actually General Data Protection Privacy Regulation. In my last company, I've actually worked on some audit projects wherein I was really asked to have a deep dive into the GDPR regulations. I was like, why are they asking me so much to go into details? Really. Now, if I talk about the GDPR, it's a European, it's basically a legislation which is approved by the European Parliament. One of the strong pillars of GDPR is integrity and confidentiality. So when you talk about the biometric data, it's considered as a sensitive personal data, very important, sensitive personal data. This word, which is sensitive personal data in audits, is taken very, very seriously. If you actually leak that, or someone has access to that sensitive or personal data, it's taken very seriously as per the GDPR laws. You could actually have 20 million euros penalties fine if that is actually breached as per the GDPR regulations. So I'm talking about the impacts that can happen if a personal or sensitive data is leaked, which is really very serious. And what else? What else can we lose? Loss of trust, which we actually discussed in the past few presentations. We also talked about reputation damage. I don't want to name the companies, but once they're hacked, they're hacked. You know what? We really want to think once more, really, should I invest my money in that? Should I? So, well, the thing is that when we talk about GDPR principles, so we really need to think a lot about the personal and sensitive information, policies and procedures, which I really worked upon in auditing. So my job was basically to see those policies and procedures very, very deeply and to actually audit them with the GDPR frameworks. I was like, why are they asking me these questions? Like, I have to do that same thing again and again. Now I understand why. So because if they don't have that somewhere written that our sensitive and personal information should not be leaked, or it should be actually taken seriously, this is what happens. A 20 million fine, euros fines, all that happen as per the GDPR. So yes, we really need to think about those policies and procedures. We really need to think about our software to be up to date. We really need to think about vulnerabilities. When we talk about vulnerabilities, why do we always talk about patching them? Why do you always think about Log4j? You remember that Log4j incident? Anything can happen anytime. We really need to be serious about what's happening. We can't just, that's okay. I mean, these are the known vulnerabilities. I'll patch them. That's fine. Now, we can't just take anything non-seriously. We really have to take everything seriously as per the personal and sensitive information is concerned. Encryption, very, very important. I'm actually a cybersecurity risk manager. All the time, when I'm talking about access controls, we have been talking about access controls right now. The main important control that comes again and again is the encryption, where we really have to think about why is it important. In biometrics, this is something which is again very important, which says biometric encryption is a process that binds PIN or cryptography key security to a biometric so that neither biometric nor key can be fetched from stored template. So this basically provides a privacy protection. So, as we were discussing again about the privacy and access controls, we are actually talking about the securing that personal and sensitive information. Yes, that's true. The access controls really need to be taken into consideration. So yeah, so when I talk about key takeaways, it's all about having a good controls in place, making sure we do the right thing, and of course, now companies, in fact everything, especially the financial institutions, are taking security very, very seriously. We have single sign-ons, we have multi-factor authentications, plus now the biometrics have also started, which is great. Let's see what happens next in the near future, and that's all. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for your time.
Any questions?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So you've obviously had a good look at EU privacy law, GDPR. What are your thoughts then on what's happening now with the governments and their conversations around changes to the Data Protection Privacy Act?
Very good question. So, as far as conversations I'm having regarding the audits is basically, you must be hearing about GDPR all the time. I mean, I hear about it all the time in news, in channels, etc. Now, coming to your question, like, how are the government agencies taking? They're taking it very seriously. Like, for example, I can actually quote my example when I had my experience with one of the financial institutions which I was actually auditing, their policies and procedures as per the GDPR. So I wasn't very sure, like a single small word in a policy can actually go for long conversations. I was like thinking, like, this meeting is just about one word and it's lasting for 4 days. Why? Why? They can just finish it in 2 minutes. Why are they just talking about that personal data all the time? It's okay, it's just the same thing. What does it matter? No, it actually matters. It actually matters. When we talk about sensitive data, and if we actually come to know about it's actually been leaked, it's a legal consequence. It's a very serious consequence. We just can't, and that's why I think if you see this news nowadays after this Optus and Medicare breach, I hear about from cybersecurity, big leaders. They always talk about, sensitive and personal data to be protected. Think about, I'm giving my credentials, my personal and sensitive information to someone whom actually they can trust. And now it's all been ruined. I mean, I give it with so much of trust. For example, let's talk about the Australian passport. I'm giving all my credentials, everything to you. Now what? Thinking about that it gets stolen one day? What the trust I will have on the government? So that's why I think what I can see from here is like government is taking it very seriously, and you can see like we are having good breaches, good penalties and fines, not only in the as per the GDPR EU, European Union, but also right now I can see that in Australia, which is pretty good, right? They're taking it so seriously. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much, Monika. I think that's time.
Thank you.